Why is it that the strongest people are often the ones suffering in silence? The ones who hold it all together until they don't. You've probably heard that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But what if that belief is actually what's killing people slowly on the inside? Here's the controversial truth. Suffering alone isn't strength. It's a trauma response. We glorify self-reliance and emotional suppression so much that people confuse it with emotional resilience. But behind that mask of independence, what you often find is isolation, psychological burnout, and a silent war no one sees, but many fight every day. This video is for the overthinkers, the overfunctioners, the ones who say, "I'm fine," but feel like they're drowning. If you've ever wondered why asking for help feels harder than facing the pain itself, if you've ever felt like your suffering is invisible to the world, stay with me. We're about to explore the psychology of suffering alone, break down the mental health myths that keep people trapped, and give you real, practical tools to start healing. Not later, now. Why strong people often suffer alone. It's a strange irony. Those who seem the most emotionally resilient are often the ones battling the deepest pain. But here's the catch. Their strength didn't come from peace. It was forged in survival. From a young age, many were taught that vulnerability equals weakness, so they mastered the art of silent suffering. Think about that friend who never asks for help, but is always the first to show up for others. That's not just kindness. It's a coping mechanism rooted in the fear of being a burden. This pattern is what psychologists call toxic independence. It's that overfunctioning trauma response, always being the fixer, the problem solver, the one who holds the emotional weight of others, but never their own. These people don't just fear vulnerability, they've been conditioned to see it as dangerous. Opening up feels like handing someone a weapon they might use against you. So instead, they bury it, deep, out of sight. And let's be honest, society doesn't make it easier. We celebrate stoicism, hustle culture, and phrases like man up or keep it together. But behind closed doors, that same mindset feeds emotional burnout and isolation. In a world obsessed with self-reliance, it's no wonder many people confuse emotional suppression with strength. The real question is, what happens when the weight becomes too much and there's no one to turn to? The hidden cost of suffering in silence. Suffering in silence might feel noble, even necessary, but it comes at a steep emotional cost. When pain is pushed down long enough, it doesn't disappear, it mutates. It shows up as anxiety, insomnia, chronic fatigue, or that inexplicable emptiness you can't quite name. This is where the neuropsychology of pain kicks in. Your brain starts wiring around your trauma, turning emotional wounds into survival habits. You may look fine on the outside, but inside, you're unraveling. Take someone who avoids conflict at all costs. On the surface, it seems like peacekeeping, but often it's a trauma response, a deep fear that speaking up will lead to rejection or punishment. And over time, that internal tension creates psychological scars. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it explodes to the surface. Suppression isn't resilience, it's emotional quicksand. And here's where things get tricky. Isolation doesn't always mean being physically alone. You could be surrounded by people and still feel completely disconnected. Why? Because when you suffer silently, your truth remains unheard. And healing can't happen in secrecy. Honestly, if this is hitting home for you, or you know someone who needs to hear it, it wouldn't hurt to send this their way. Or, heck, tap that like or subscribe if you want more conversations like this. Just saying. Why asking for help feels so hard. Here's something most people won't admit out loud. Asking for help can feel more terrifying than staying in pain. It triggers all kinds of internal alarms: fear of rejection, fear of seeming weak, fear of being misunderstood. The brain, shaped by past experiences and cognitive distortions, whispers things like, "No one will care," or "You'll just be a burden." This is where the fear of vulnerability hijacks logic, making silence feel safer than connection. For those shaped by trauma or emotional neglect, self-reliance becomes not just a strength, but a shield. Think of the introvert who's exhausted by social interaction, or the high achiever who never lets their guard down. It's not arrogance, it's protection. The real struggle isn't about capability, it's about permission. Giving yourself permission to be seen, heard, and supported, that's the real work. And it's uncomfortable as hell. But here's a reframe. What if asking for help isn't weakness, but wisdom? Emotional intelligence isn't about doing everything alone. It's about knowing when you shouldn't. And sometimes, healing starts with a single sentence like, "I'm not okay." If that feels impossible, start smaller. Journal it, text a friend, or even talk out loud to yourself. Weird? Maybe. But we're not aiming for perfect. We're aiming for healing. And that opens the door to something we rarely talk about, but desperately need. So here we are. You've just explored the unspoken world of solo suffering, the emotional burnout behind strength, the invisible cost of silence, and the terrifying courage it takes to ask for help. The truth is, resilience isn't about how much you can endure alone. It's about knowing when it's time to stop carrying it all by yourself. So let me ask you, where in your life are you pretending you're fine when you're actually exhausted? Who would you be if you let go of the need to seem strong all the time? And what would happen if, just once, you gave yourself permission to be supported? That's not weakness, that's freedom, that's healing, that's the start of emotional intelligence in action. If this message stirred something in you, even a little, I want you to carry it forward, apply it, reflect on it, talk about it, share it with someone who might need it more than you know. And hey, if you want to keep digging into the raw, real psychology of being human, go ahead and subscribe, turn on those notifications, and stick around. You're not alone in this, not anymore.